To all those above me that watch over me, to all of my favorite para peeps here on this side of the veil, welcome. This is Reverend Sean Whittington's Paranormal Ministry. I'm your host, Reverend Sean, the Rev. Welcome to my haunted house, my very haunted house. We're going to start and do something a little bit different today. Not real different, but a little bit. I did have a couple of requests come in from a couple of viewers asking for an opening prayer. And I personally reached out to them and we prayed together. But what I wanted to do today was I spent most of the evening last night up talking with a colleague of mine who's in the deliverance ministry field. And he, in turn, was up most of the night on location with a client of his who, God help us, probably is possessed. And so during one of the conversations that my colleague had with his client, when apparently the invading unclean spirit had manifested through his client, something was told to him and said to him about us, and mainly about children, our children, the world's children. And I'm not going to repeat what was said, but it's very troubling. Let me start by saying demons are liars, but they do always mix in a little bit of the truth to keep you on your toes and keep you guessing as to um, which way to go with your next plan of attack. Having said that, I have decided because of this case is ongoing and what was said that I'm going to say an opening prayer for all of us. Okay? This is a very powerful prayer. So if you want to add any of your positive vibe, your love, personal love and light, or if you want to receive any of the love and light and positive vibe from this prayer, just reach out, touch your computer screen, close your eyes, bow your head, and I will begin the prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Spirit of the Lord, Spirit of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, Holy Trinity, Immaculate Virgin, angels, archangels, and saints of paradise, come down to us, my paranormal ministry family, my producer Adrian, everyone at the Paranormal United Network, children everywhere, all children, and all of us. Found it, Lord, shape it, fill it with you, use it. Kick all the adverse forces on evil away from us, destroy them, so that we can be well and do good. He chases away evil spells, witchcraft, black magic, black masses, invoices, bindings, curses, the evil eye, satanic rites, satanic cults, consecrations to Satan. Break all ties with Satan and all people related to Satan, live or deceased. It drives away from us the diabolical infestation, the diabolical possession, the diabolical obsession. All that is evil, sin, envy, jealousy, perfidy, physical, mental, moral, spiritual, diabolical illness. Burn all these evils in hell because they never have to touch us and no other creature in the world. I order and command with the power of the Almighty God, in the name of Jesus Christ, the Savior, through the intercession of the Immaculate Virgin, with the power I have from the church, although unworthy, to all unclean spirits, to all presences that harass us, to leave us immediately, to leave us permanently, and to go to eternal hell. Chained by Saint Michael the Archangel, by Saint Gabriel, by Saint Raphael, by our guardian angels, crushed under the heel of the most immaculate Virgin. Amen. And please keep my colleague, and his client in your prayers. Guys, anything you want to know about me and my wife and our ministry work, you can find at our website, www.ghost-b-gone.biz. That's our ministry here in Las Vegas, Nevada. If you go there to the website to visit, there's a lot of cool things to see there. I know times are tough, but if you notice the donate button on the website and you're able to do so, click on the donate button and send us in a small donation. I promise you it will be appreciated from the bottom of our hearts, and it will be put to good use, I assure you. In addition to being an ordained exorcist, I'm also a certified spiritual advisor, intuitive coach. If you are having issues of a spiritual nature, not necessarily attached to the paranormal, and you would like to make an appointment with the Rev to speak about those issues, you can make an appointment to do so on the page entitled Spiritual Advisor. But don't leave the website without traveling back over to the page called the WSE course/book. On that page, you'll find the Ghost Store. You'll find cool things on there to purchase, like this old school throwback Ghost Be Gone mug, or that awesome Ghost Be Gone throwback t-shirt behind me, if you go for that kind of stuff. But scroll down to the bottom of that page, you'll first run into my new haunted autobiography, God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry, a true story inspired by spirit and divine intervention. And I quote, the scariest book I ever published. That was Annette Munich, owner of Stellium Books, my publisher. But please don't let that scare you off of purchasing a copy. There's a lot of good versus evil in that book, and good wins. So I like to refer to it as a very different kind of feel-good story. But the best part about my book, if you haven't done your good deed for the day yet, pick up a copy. Part of the proceeds of every sale of every copy of my book goes to support stjude.org in St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, Nevada. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. If you've already purchased the book, then you're a part of that support group. God bless you for that, okay? Scroll a little bit further down, you'll notice the Worldwide Society of Exorcists, which I am a founding member of. I offer a 12-week online college-level course, Introduction to Spiritual Warfare, through the WSE, and it is the perfect course for all you spiritual warriors out there who have felt a calling or a hunger to want to have more knowledge on how to draw your line in the sand, put up a stand, and put up a good fight against true evil, God forbid if it ever comes calling for you. It is college level, so all of my graduates get a stunning diploma suited for framing, along with some other very special blessed parting gifts that you can only get from yours truly, the Rev. So you can enroll in that class there at the website. And if you just want more information about the course, there is a Worldwide Society of Exorcists Facebook page. All right, guys, the reason why you've all shown up today, my guest. I joked around a little bit promoting this show earlier in the week that he is an international man of mystery. And even though he's a friend of mine, that's not far from the truth, because I probably know about as much about him as you all do. So I'm hoping both of us, all of us, get to know a little bit more about him. But what I can tell you, though, cool dude, nice guy, one of the good guys out there. You're going to really enjoy it. Paranormal experiencer, podcaster, photographer, designer. Guys, please welcome to the show the one and only Andrew Hall. Andrew, are you with us, brother?
I'm here. Happy to be here, man.
There you are, man. I'm glad to see you. The last time, well, I didn't get to see you, but the last time we spoke, you had me on your show.
Dead Hand Radio. Yeah.
I had a great time. You just actually this past week aired that. It was pre-recorded. You aired that. I had to go back and listen to it again, and it just reminded me of what a good time I had. So I'm going to try and return the favor, and hopefully you'll have equally as good a time today, because I'm going to want to have you back. There's just too much to talk to you about in 1 hour. So let's jump right into it. brother, the most important thing I want to know, I know you're a family man. My God, can things be any crazier? I thought we were done with all of this by the end of 2020. We're now February 2021. I think we've got quite a bit of a fight left to go and some rough times. How are you and the family and everybody close to you doing during the pandemic?
We're doing good. Spirits are up. Everybody's healthy, and that's probably as good as it gets right now. So we're pretty happy. Hanging in there.
I told you when we last spoke that I put you and your family on the prayer list. You're still there, so I still pray for you guys. My God, scary times right now, really, really scary times. I was, the reason why I offered up the opening prayer for all of us, especially the children, was because, oh my gosh, just they're having such a tough time too. I talk to parents every day. Not only are the parents having a rough time, many of them lost their businesses, got laid off their jobs, haven't been able to go back to work. Maybe one or more family members have gotten sick. But now the kids, without being able to, many of them not being able to go back to school is just heartbreaking. So let's just hope all of that gets turned around here. But I hope you didn't mind me calling you the international man of mystery, because really, brother, I stalked you this past week or two trying to put together tonight's show. You don't put a whole lot about you out there. And I figured it probably has something to do with maybe you're running from the MIBs. And I have to tell you, and I'm being honest here, I kid you not, man, there is an all-black Suburban parked across the street from my house right now that I've never seen out there before. And I got the biggest laugh over it because of you being on the show. And I know that's not my neighbor's car. I don't have a clue. And if it's gone when the show's over, we'll talk later. But introduce yourself to the Paranormal Ministry family. They're dying to get to know you. And tell us a little bit about you, your passions, and your very excellent podcast, Dead Hand Radio.
All right. Thanks, Sean. The reason I don't put a lot out there is because there's really not a lot to tell. I've been a self-employed businessman since 2001. Went through a couple of hard knocks, and 2020 was a pretty rough time for me. But it was also an opportunity for me to launch the podcast, which has been an interesting experience. I've met a lot of really cool people through the podcast, as you know, I'm sure. Having your own podcast, radio show, you get to meet and talk to people from different walks of life. And I think that's really been a hugely rewarding opportunity for me. So as tough as things have gotten for me and my family, and I've complained a little bit, I don't do it publicly, but there's always a way to look at it from a positive perspective and try to keep things in the positive, which is really what I really try to do. I really try to leave people with a positive message at the end of each episode of my podcast. The podcast is about, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the podcast than I am about myself, just because, me as a person, I don't find myself all that exciting, but the podcast is, it's very exciting to me. I started out originally talking about the Cold War, and because growing up during the Cold War, it had a really heavy impact on me. Not 100% in the negative, because I find that there was so much amazing artwork and such a rich cultural experience that came out of the Cold War era that, I don't think it was all bad. But it gave me a lot of things to talk about. And when I started up the podcast, I thought, I'll just talk about the Cold War because that's one of the things that I find interesting. History has always been one of my most interesting topics to look into. As I was digging deeper into the research with the podcast to come up with content and find guests, I started to uncover or discover other areas that were in some ways linked with the Cold War. And one of those was the paranormal. So I did a whole series on the paranormal around October of last year. And that really blew the doors off. After I did the Halloween series, I jumped right into talking to people from the UFO community, experiencers, researchers. And man, it's really been a trippy ride since then. So that's where I'm at now.
Well, God bless you, brother. I want to make sure people know I love the podcast. I really do. And I'll tell you a couple of, side notes about what I really love about it, but I want to make sure everybody knows about it. Of course, it's Dead Hand Radio, but your website, www.andrewhall.com, everybody don't forget that. Check that out. I also want everybody to check out www.deadhandradio.com. Two wonderful websites, anything and everything you need to know about Andrew, except for his deepest, darkest secrets and everything about the podcast and all his shows that he's recorded are there, all the archives. He has interviewed some of the most awesome people under the paranormal umbrella. And I mean, that's what I love about the podcast. You've got a UFO series, you've got a sci-fi series, you've got a paranormal series. I think you even got a horror series, if I remember correctly. But you're under everything is under the one umbrella on the podcast, which I think is very cool. So before I move a little bit further on you and I, and another thing I'm excited about is you live here in Vegas. I don't know why I don't have more local people from Vegas here on the show. It just works out that way. But I'm excited that you're also here in town with me. We'll talk about some of the really interesting paranormal and haunting. And when I say haunting, I don't just mean ghosts. I mean, Cold War, the atomic stuff. You go out urbexing out in the ghost towns doing desert photography. I mean, you just you come upon it's just a haunting area. And this town is very haunting for many reasons. People gamble their lives away. People commit suicide because of that. The history of the gangsters and so many things. And every time I see people come out with a list of some of the most haunted towns in America, very rarely sometimes I see Vegas on there, but never near the top. And I'm here to tell you, and you could probably attest, this is a very, very, very haunted town. But what I want to know, and believe it or not, some people have sent in some questions for me to ask you. And I think what really gets people at first is the whole Cold War thing. I have a young audience, which I cherish because I would just think it's people my age, and I'm 61 now. But a lot of young people that watch the show reach out, they don't even know what the Cold War was, or the atomic testing out here and all of that stuff. So what was the defining thing? Now I'm going to throw it all under the umbrella: UFOs, ETs, Cold War, paranormal, sci-fi, the horror. There had to have been one big bug that bit you to get you on this path that you're on. And if you know what that was, can you share that?
Well, I would say it was probably more like a domino effect because, right, ever since I was a little kid, like I said, I knew about the Cold War since I was just a young boy, 7. I didn't know it was called the Cold War. In fact, I don't think it was called the Cold War back then. It was just the Soviet Union and the U.S. were at odds. There was a threat of nuclear war. So that always stuck in the back of my head, and I was a big science fiction fan ever since I was a little kid. From Star Wars to Alien, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, all of those sci-fi movies. And then the idea of UFOs was always there in the background too. I always had an interest in the UFO phenomena, but I was not really a believer. And in the conversation you and I had, I think I told you about an experience that I had when I was around that same time, 7, 8 years old. I had two weird experiences that may have been either ghosts or spirits or some kind of apparitions. We can get more into detail on that a little bit later if you want to, but I'll
Absolutely,
continue and try to answer your question. So it started with the Cold War and my interest in history and that period. And why were we so at odds with the Soviet Union for so long? I mean, the Cold War lasted 4 decades, from 1945 till 1991. So 4.5 decades, almost 5 decades. And a couple of times we almost actually fired nukes at each other. On more than one occasion. We came to pretty close to blows. And that could have been the end of the world. So this is something that's really stuck with me all these years. The UFO and the paranormal stuff was also there in the background, and then the sci-fi stuff too. So, along the journey of the podcast, it just all started to unfold a little bit at a time, and it just seems like they're all connected in one way or another, one weird way,
Yeah. When you say Cold War to me, this is what first comes to mind. Everybody having a bomb shelter. I was born in 1959, so a lot of these people, their homes built 40s, 50s, 60s, and everybody had a bomb shelter. They didn't talk about it and say it was a bomb shelter, but I think we talked about the haunted mansion here in town that I investigated. My wife and I had been to it at least a dozen times, and they had a bowling alley underneath the home. And I thought to myself, my first question was, who builds a bowling alley underneath the home? And then the guy trying to sell the home said, no, they turned it into a bowling alley, but it was a bomb shelter. And I just thought about all the people I knew that had sheds, the reinforced concrete, block walls with the steel structures inside, half of it in the ground, half of it coming out, always telling you it was just a really high-tech storage shed. But later on, as I grew up, I knew what those were. But it's funny how I just came to just think, everybody's got a bomb shelter. It really didn't affect me being born around that time. So here's the thing. We'll break this down into sections. I have people, actually, I wrote the questions down. I have friends of mine that either come out here all the time, or they've been out here a few times. They're planning to come out when the pandemic lightens up a little bit. Right now it's too scary. But they always say, listen, I'm really into this. What can I do there? Let's just check off the boxes. Atomic bomb related stuff.
Oh, there's a ton of stuff out here.
Well, this is all I know of it, and for me, it's enough. I always recommend them to go to Mount Charleston and take that. I don't know the name of the canyon route that connects Lee Canyon, and they've got the atomic bomb lookout where you pull off and you get out and you walk up, and it's got I don't know if they still have the binoculars. You put the money in, and you can see off of the mountain, off into the distance, where they tested the atomic bomb. Then I always tell people, take a drive out as if you're going the back route into Pahrump. You'll go through Indian Springs, and they've got that weird, what's it doing there, Air Force Base out in the middle of nowhere.
Crete. I think it's called Crete.
Yeah. And then you go past that, and I find Mercury, Nevada, crazy weird. Weirder to me than Area 51. You can't get in there. Maybe 10 people now live there. At one time, 500, all scientists, all working at the nuclear atomic bomb site. whatever that was. And now when you get near there, it reminds me of that abandoned city that you see like in Hills Have Eyes,
Yeah.
the remake,
Yeah.
and like the atomic bomb city. I don't know if they didn't blow the bomb up there, but it reminds me of that city like in the beginning of the last Indiana Jones movie where he had to get in the refrigerator because the bomb blew up. Um, Talk to me and some of my friends that are listening that are into the atomics era here, what they can do.
Well, like right now, because of the pandemic, the restrictions and everything, you can't really go out to the test site. Um, but when things normalize a little bit more and they start letting people out there, I haven't actually been out there myself. You have to go through a security background check to get out there, and it takes, yeah, I think there's like a 6-month long waiting list to even get out there. But you get out to the site, and I've talked to people who've gone out there. You get to take a tour. You get to see some of the nuclear bomb craters, and I think photography is restricted out there, so you're not going to be able to do any photography that I know of. That's one of the most like sought after places to go visit. And then here in town, there's the nuclear testing or the atomic testing museum, which is a fantastic place. You could spend 3 or 4 hours walking through there to see that place. And now you mentioned the town of Mercury, but you don't even have to go that far to get to a similar town. Now it's not really a nuclear town; it's more of a ghost town, but it's forgot the name of it.
And it's going to blow me away if you can remember the name of this town, because if it's any creepier than Mercury, I'm going. As soon as Sharon and I feel comfortable enough to get out, throw on the mask and go out there. But there's just some creepy stuff out here. At any given time, Sharon and I, and we took like a year off because of the pandemic, and it looks like we're going to take a lot more time off. But when we get back out again, we wouldn't have anything to do when the weekend came upon us. We would just look at the map and say, let's drive there. And my finger would be out into the middle of nowhere. And we would drive out there. And not one trip was unsatisfying. Everywhere we went, we would find a ghost town that wasn't even on the map. We would find old, abandoned, falling down structures. A lot of other weird things. I don't know if you've been out to like SEMA and Ivanpah. I mean, we went to Ivanpah, and it's just scary, cool. I was giving tours here at one time and almost had Ivanpah on the tour because, in addition to that, satisfying a lot of the people's atomic fix, I found some homes out there that were abandoned, just sitting there. And when we went in, Sharon and I, both being very sensitive to spirit, found them all to be infested with spirit. These, who knows what had lived in these homes at one time or another. I have a good friend on here named Anne Rosenowitz. Wow, from Australia. We'd love to come and visit, but Australia is saying no international travel to 2022. Wow.
Man, I'm sorry to hear that, Ann.
Oh,
I've got a couple friends in Australia. They're also into the it's post-apocalyptic. There's a post-apocalyptic community on Twitter who have always been really supportive of the work that I do, the photography and the podcast and stuff like that. So, but there's people from Australia, people from UK, people from Taiwan. I mean, all over the world, and they all have the similar interests. They're big fans of Mad Max, and movies from that genre.
yeah.
Which I kind of equate that to the atomic era because that's when those movies were made. They're based on, a post-apocalyptic world, which is, but possibly could have happened. Thankfully, it didn't. But
Well, look how nothing's really changed if you think about it.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to like circle back around to the Cold War part again and how it affects everything. Because you're right, it does affect a lot of things, influence a lot of things, I should say. We're still in it. I mean, we're still Russia,
Yeah.
still China,
Right.
all these other countries that hate us. That you know, I don't know what's going to happen there. So we just got done having a president who's the first president in I don't know how many years didn't start a war, and now we've got. I don't think I know one person close to me who wasn't 100% sure that our last president was going to cause a war. Um, in my heart of hearts, I knew it wasn't going to happen. They don't talk to me now. We don't talk about that. We still talk to me. We don't talk about that. But I haven't had a chance to talk to them about how do you feel now with the new guy. Things are scary. What do you? Where was your mind at 4 years ago with our next war, and where's your mind at now with the next war with the new guy in there? Considering nothing's really changed.
Well, I say this on my podcast quite often. I believe that we are in Cold War 2.0. I think we had a lull between the end of the Cold War in the 90s when Soviet Union collapsed, and then Russia rebuilt itself and became, worked its way back into becoming a superpower. But they still don't have the presence that they once had. But you do have China, and China is a very dominant force in the world, and a lot of people don't know it, and many people don't want to realize this, but they're they have an agenda, and I don't know exactly what their agenda is, but they're making some pretty bold moves throughout the East and into Africa. Australia is right there, and there's really nobody to stand up to them now. So it seems like we're going to see a lot more. I can't think of the right word, man. My brain's kind of blanking right now, but
It's scary times. It's like I had a little blank
yeah,
moment there for a second because all of a sudden I got overwhelmed with this feeling that in my heart of hearts, it would just crush me to think that they allowed this pandemic to get out, to happen, this virus to get out. Why we are working on creating these kind of viruses in the first place, I've never understood that. It's like Fauci the other day says it'll always be here, so we're always going to be. We may not always be in a pandemic, but as long as the virus exists, which it always will be, as long as it's in the farthest corner of the earth, we're all going to be in danger. Okay, great. Why was he working on that in the first place? And then Obama administration told him to knock it off. And then behind their back, he continued to get funding and continued to do that. I don't believe it was purposely let out. I do believe it's an accident. If I'm proven to be wrong down the road, God help us all that there is, like you said, some entity out there that would release this on the world,
mm-hmm.
knowing that it's also going to hurt them too. Just really, really scary. But it did generate there. Everybody and their mother and the whole world knows that. So how do you make them? How do you make them pay for that? Have some consequences from that. And there is really, bottom line is there is really no way other than a fight, which that's not going to help anybody.
No.
So it is a scary time right now. And sometimes I get so overwhelmed thinking about it that so emotionally, psychologically, sometimes I just shut off because it just yeah, the ultimate consequences could be devastating to the whole world. I don't believe we're in end times. I do believe some things could happen to push us in the end times direction, but I think we have the ability to come out of it.
Well,
Um,
I actually have a pretty optimistic perspective on this. I think that we're in rough times right now, and I don't know how long those rough times are going to last. But do you remember in 2008 when the real estate bubble collapsed, wiped out thousands of businesses, probably hundreds of thousands of businesses? The banks almost had to file bankruptcy. They had to get bailed out by the government. People were losing their homes left and right. Okay, that was a rough time. This pandemic uh, is pretty rough, financially devastating, but we pulled through 2008. I know we're going to pull through this pandemic, but what I'm really optimistic about is that when we do get on the other side of this, I believe there's going to be a boon of creativity, of financial stability and wealth like we've never experienced before.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Let's pray for that.
all right, amen, man. I come in agreement with you on that too. But I don't know how long this is going to last. You know, nobody does. Like your friend there, Ann. She said 2022 before they're going to even be allowed to travel. Yeah, you know.
My friends my friends in the medical field get mad at me when I say this because it directly affects them. And I don't mean this will probably be the last downer thing I say, and then I'm going to move us on to some paranormal talk, some UFO talk, because that's you and I both have had our experiences here. I do believe ultimately we are going to be fighting this for years. And I do believe that ultimately it's going to be herd immunity um, that pulls us through. Having said that, I think when the smoke clears years from now, and it's not a pandemic, but of course it'll be somewhere, I think that the survivors will be people that got the vaccine and who already contracted the virus and survived it. Everybody else, I think will be in heaven, honestly. And when I tell that to my friends in the medical field, they get mad at me because they're like, well, if that happens, we're all screwed because we're just going to get overwhelmed more so than we are now at the hospitals. We won't be able to handle it. I just drove by a hospital here yesterday that not only already had tents out there, tents where they're going to be putting people and taking care of them, because a good friend of mine who's 10 years younger than me, in great health, no underlying health issues, caught COVID, still fighting it. It's been like 10 days. Finally admitted him into the hospital. The COVID's given him congestive heart failure, pneumonia, fever 103, 104 up. They can't break that. Oxygen level below 80. He's on a ventilator. It's scary. So something's happening.
Yeah.
Having said that, then I take another look and I slow down. I go, am I really seeing what I think I'm seeing? I see a couple of huge refrigerated semis for body storage. That's scary.
Mm-hmm.
So Sharon and I, we just go to work, we come home. You know, sometimes I wear my mask when I even go out in the yard, but our masks are always on when we leave here, go to work. We try to social distance the best we can when we're at work. Very hard. It's an animal hospital. And then we come home, we only go to the market if we absolutely have to. I know people need to enjoy their lives. I know people need to get out. People are going stir crazy. People are getting cabin fever. People are hurting one another. People are committing suicide. People need to get out and live their lives. Unfortunately, herd immunity, in my opinion, is going to take care of a lot of that over the next few years to come. And I'm sorry to be. Having said all that, guys, I want you to know I'm in constant prayer that it's not going to be like that. But
Definitely.
that's how I feel. But it's scary. Let's jump to what's most popular out here. I think huger than anything out here is the ufology community.
Yeah, it is big. we have a pretty active chapter of MUFON right here too.
Yeah.
In Nevada, and I've attended a few of their meetings online. It's pretty interesting. Last week, it's a monthly meeting, but last week was the monthly meeting for January, and George Knapp was on there. You know who George Knapp is?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely. They don't get any bigger than him.
Yeah, you don't. Not in the UFO field, that's for sure. And he was talking about his experiences, and he's written a book. Matter of fact, the reason why I went from on the fence, as a between believer and skeptic. I wouldn't really call myself a skeptic, but I was not a believer. And the thing that pushed me over the edge to actually accepting that these things are real was the book that he and Colm Kelleher wrote called Hunt for the Skinwalker. Great book. And it doesn't only talk about UFOs. Skinwalker Ranch is a place that has probably, it has it all. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it's scary.
Did you ever read that book?
No, I haven't, but it's like when my friends, you're blowing me away with just the things you're throwing out there. So a matter of factly, because you're far more versed on all this. But like I just tell my friends what everybody tells them. What can I do when it comes to UFO stuff? So try to find someone that can take you on a night watch. Just about any place you go out here outside of the city, you're in a night watch. But I always tell them about the extraterrestrial highway, and then take that to Rachel. You get the little alien. You got Area 51 there. What
there's
do you tell
there's
people
an
when they ask you to do? What do I do for the UFO stuff?
Well, like you say, that up there at the extraterrestrial highway, there's Rachel, Nevada. There's the black mailbox where Bob Lazar famously took his friends to Skywatch and see the UFOs flying around out there right before he came out with all of his UFO talk and exposed Area 51 to the world. There's also an alien research center out there where it looks like an old aircraft hangar, the corrugated steel aircraft hangar. And you go in there, they got books and videos and people that are knowledgeable about the site, the area. When you go out there, you can't really see the base, but you could park anywhere along that road and look out over the mountain range. And once the sun goes down and you can start to see what's going on out there, you see lights doing weird stuff. I don't know if it's advanced technology, if it's UFO stuff, but there are lights in the sky that do weird stuff out there. And I
think it's a little bit of everything. I think it's a little bit of everything. You were in the Air Force. God bless you. Thank you for your service. I was in the Navy. You see a lot of crazy stuff out there, and I think it's a mixture of everything. Many years before I met my wife, I dated a girl whose father was an electrician out at Area 51, and he used to, if I gave him one, if we were at her house having some drinks, and I don't drink anymore, but if you got one too many in him, he'd start getting a little loose-lipped about stuff. But you had to get him pretty much hammered for him to start talking, because those guys are so trained not to talk about that stuff. But he told me about a time where he, wherever he went to work, they're on the base, they knew where he was at. And anytime he would hear this certain alarm, he would have to go into the nearest safe, whatever it was, safe shed, safe zone, and then stay in there till further notice. And one time he got this alarm and he went to the safe area, and then he got ballsy and he kind of snuck out of the safe area. What the hell's going on? And he saw a bus just like the one that took them all out there, and several trucks, military trucks, all driving out into the middle of nowhere. And he could see that they went up to this little hilltop mesa area, and an aircraft that, now this guy was in the service for many years, an aircraft like nothing he's ever seen in his life came down out of nowhere, the sky, and landed on this mesa. Something was going on out there on top of this mesa, but when it was over, this thing left, and this caravan, bus, and trucks following came back down. Then he went back into his area and hid till he heard the okay alarm to come back out again. Something's going on.
Yeah.
Who cares? We all know that the extraterrestrials exist. We can't be the only life.
It's interesting, but the big question is not, are we alone in the universe? That's not the question anymore. A lot of people still wonder if UFOs are visiting us here. I don't wonder that anymore. I believe they are. I've never seen one, although I've seen some weird stuff in the sky. I can't pinpoint and say that was a UFO or, that was an alien aircraft or anything. What I do think that we need to ask is, why are they here? I think that's the more important question. And if we can answer that, I think that changes our whole reality right there.
Absolutely. Let's move from that to scary aliens versus nice aliens. And the only thing we can really use as reference is, besides me having right now a slew of cases coming across my desk where everybody's being visited by the different entities in like a dream state, and they know they're not dreaming, but they're at the mercy of these entities. Some are friendly, some not so friendly, some are very violent like a demon, some are like interdimensional and take these people to other worlds and show them stuff. Some are very sexual. So I'm wondering if some of these are interdimensional visiting extraterrestrials. It's just that's what keeps me going. Is we just don't know, and at times I feel so helpless. I mean, I had a friend who lives in Canada, and he's an abductee, and he said when the aliens came and got him, the first question they asked him, I don't even know if you and I talked about this on your show. Guess what the aliens asked him when they grabbed him? They asked him, have you seen God?
Really?
So were these particular aliens going around the universe looking for God? Did they maybe just hear us talking about God?
That's so weird that you brought that up, because there was I interviewed an abductee on the program, and this guy he was in the Navy also. He had an incredible experience where he was abducted, taken on board a craft, shown multiple variations of how the world would end. And then when he met the creatures, they were like these 15 tall praying mantis looking creatures. But they, when he asked them about God, he said, they were telling him stuff. They were answering all his questions. But when he got to the question of, what about God, or do you serve God, or something like that, he asked them, they went ballistic, and, they got really angry. So and they said they couldn't talk about it. That's what their response to his question was. We can't talk about that. So that's interesting that your friend had an experience where they asked him about God. The person I interviewed asked them about God, and it freaked them out. So
really,
there could be something to that hypothesis that you have. That, are they looking for God, or?
Tell you what we'll do. I'm going to just quickly share a weird episode that I experienced. Then I want to close out the show, if we have time, definitely with an experience of yours, a personal experience of any kind that you want to share with my viewers. Mine will be quick. Back in the day, I was a member of a motorcycle gang. Don't judge. I'm much better now. I'm back on my medications and doing great now. But I was a member of a motorcycle gang, and we were in a big rally in California. Me and a couple of buddies decided to head back early. We decided to detour and go to the little alien out in Rachel, Nevada. And this was late in the day, and we go in there. There's nobody in this bar. I kid you not, man. There's a guy behind the bar, a guy sitting at the bar, and another guy in the back dressed as a woman. He looked like a man dressed as a woman. Don't send me hate mail, people. But they all look like Christopher Walken. Honest to God. They look like Christopher Walken. They kept staring us down. and we were sightseeing, buying souvenirs and stuff. The one behind back there where they were cooking, and they weren't cooking anything, who was dressed as a woman, comes out, and he starts like giving us the third degree about, who are we, where have we been, where are we headed, how do we like the little alien, um, do we have family in Vegas? Are there people expecting us? If we're too tired to take the long ride home, they have trailers in the back that we can stay in. I've always wanted to stay in one trailer out there that's supposed to be haunted by an alien ghost of all things. But when we went out there to look at the trailers, now they had these huge custom buses that look like the ones you see on movie sets for the main stars. And they said those are the ones you'll be staying in. And I just all of a sudden, dude, got the heebie jeebies off the charts that I didn't want to be there any longer. Like, so what if I go ahead and pound down a few more beers, a few shots, a couple of games of pool, have a bite to eat, and go and sleep in one of these mobile homes? Am I never going to be seen again? That's how creepy this was. So I told my buddies, you guys can stay if you want. I'm out of here before it gets dark because I'm on a motorcycle. I know how far away from Vegas Rachel is, so I'm leaving. They felt the same way I felt, and we all left. And then I had on my way to Ridgecrest, I believe it's called, and there's nothing out there but a Air Force base, if I remember correctly. I'm delivering automotive supplies to an auto dealership out there. Why is there an auto dealership in Ridgecrest? I don't know. But I had a very frightening UFO experience heading out to Ridgecrest, which you and I can talk about at another time. But share with my listeners if you have one, a life-changing personal experience, and it can have anything to do with aliens, ghosts. If you want to share the one when you were young that really, really put the talons into you as far as the paranormal went, the show's yours, brother.
Well, I have a couple, and it was, I think they might be connected now. I was actually thinking about this on my walk today. I go for about a 3.5 mile walk every day. And today I didn't listen to my headphones because I wanted to think about what I was going to share on your show today. So when I was 7 or 8 years old, maybe I was 9 years old. I don't know. It was in around that time. I had two weird experiences. Now, I never really thought that these were real experiences until just recently. I thought it was like either probably in that state between awake and asleep where, you might not actually, you might still be dreaming, but you're awake. I don't know if you know what I mean. But the first one, I was at my mom, my sister, and I were living with my grandfather. My grandmother had passed away not long before this. And I was in the bedroom. I walked out of the bedroom into the hallway, and this was the middle of the night. I don't know why I was awake in the middle of the night, but I walked into the hallway. I looked at this wall heater. It was, it was like 3 or 4 feet high, but it was mounted to the wall, and that was the heating unit for the house. Right in front of that, I saw this misty, it didn't have any shape. It just looked like a mist floating right there. I didn't know what that was. I didn't, I thought I was like imagining, rub my eyes. Maybe I was seeing blurry from just waking up. I don't know what that was. Not long after that, I was at my dad's house. Parents were divorced, so I would stay with my mom sometimes, stay with my dad sometime. This time I was at my dad's house, and I woke up in bed, middle of the night again, sat up, and I looked at the dresser was across from the foot of the bed. And atop the dresser, there was these 3 like transparent see-through heads, and they looked like they were yelling at me. And I don't know if that was a dream or if I was imagining it, but it was a scary, such a scary experience that I got out of bed, went into the bathroom, and stayed in the bathroom for a little while. Can't remember, can't remember how I got back to the bed, but that was a creepy one. Now, um, years later, I had a dream where my grandmother came and visited me, and she told me something, kind of a cryptic message that has stayed with me all these years. And since starting the podcast, I've had some synchronicities with that dream. And the reason I think that the dream and um, the two experiences where maybe it was a ghost are related is because they all happened. Well, the two ghost sightings, if that's what they were, happened in close proximity to the time that my grandma passed away. And then her visiting me in the dream years later was actually like me talking to her. It was like so real. Is that, you know, one of those dreams where it just absolutely, you can't tell the difference between the dream and the reality. So that was my three experiences that um, kind of seemed like they might have been had something to do with the paranormal.
Well, I want you to cherish those experiences because many people are close to their relatives, grandparents, parents that have passed on. And I don't recommend conjuring, but when they come to visit like that, whether it be in a dream state or you actually see their apparition, um, that's to be cherished because not everybody gets that. So cherish that memory. That's a wonderful memory of your grandmother, and I'm 100% positive that you had a visitation, a spiritual visitation, which is a beautiful thing. What I'm going to do now is first apologize to you that the hour went by so fast.
Yeah,
I
it did
am
go
going to have
fast.
you back because there's things. I had some people that are photographers that are so in love with your talent of photography. People can find out your photography on your websites, but they wanted to ask you about cameras. And these are paranormal guys that have been using paranormal cameras. And did we all waste our money on these cameras and, that sort of thing? So I will have you back because I want to talk about photography, which you've got such a talented eye for. I
Thank
also
you.
want to talk to you about design work. Some other people want to talk to you about design work. I told everybody reach out to him. He's a designer. Did you design the logo for your podcast?
Yeah, right.
Ah, totally awesome.
Boom, right there.
So I want people
Yeah, I
want to
did
say,
that.
can we reach out to him for design work? The answer is yes to everything. Reach out to Andrew for questions about photography. Look at his photography. Reach out to Andrew for questions about design work. He's a designer. Um, so, yes, please reach out to him. I'm going to have you back because there's other topics. I got to like 4 questions out of my 25 here, and half of them are from people that sent them in. So, and there's more stuff that we need to talk about as far as Vegas goes.
Yes,
So I
for
will
sure.
have you back, brother. Um, you're in my prayers. I love you. I respect you. I can't wait for us to do this again.
Thank you, man.
I'm praying for your family. I pray for everyone that this, we're going to come through this thing. But thank you so very much for spending an hour with me and my
Thanks for
viewers
having me,
on.
man.
Oh, God
And
bless you for coming.
you're welcome to come back on Dead Hand Radio. I'm hoping to have some time in the very near future to get you back on and talk about some things that we left on the table as well. I have a lot of
Absolutely.
questions, and we didn't get to hardly any. I think we spent almost 2 hours talking, and
That's
we
a good
only,
interview. It's up now.
yeah.
It's up now on your website. I shared it on my Facebook page. But brother, have a wonderful remainder to your Friday afternoon and your Friday evening. God bless you and thank you very much. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Good night, Andrew.
Take care, Sean.
Brothers and sisters, it doesn't get any better than that. I promise I'll have him back. I only got to like 4 questions of the, it's probably me. I probably talk too much. You guys are free to comment anytime. Sean, let the man talk. Let the woman talk. Let your guest talk more. I'm good with that. I do tend to ramble on, so I apologize. But just a good guy, um, great solid background, talented in so many ways. So reach out to him for your photography questions, your designer questions. AndrewHall.com, deadhandradio.com. Dead Hand Radio is the podcast. Next week I will be here. Next Friday, again, 2 p.m. Pacific. You guys are going to love this lady. Elite paranormal investigator, extremely gifted, world-renowned psychic medium, Cheryl Lynn Carter will be here. That's going to rock. I want to take this opportunity to thank my wonderful producer, Adrian Hart of the Ghost. She's AKA the Ghost Granny, Desert Heart Paranormal. I want to thank everybody at Paranormal United Network for simulcasting my podcast on all of their social media platforms. Heartfelt thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in, because without you guys, I don't have a show. So God bless you all. Remember, stop the violence, stop the anger. Anger is just a punishment that we put on ourselves for somebody else's mistake. I love you all. Vegas strong. I'll be talking at you guys next Friday. On that note, good night, Harold. Rest in peace. Good night, Ernie. Good night, Bill. Good night, Dan. God bless you all. Peace.